Okay, so I just want to look up the Greek of these to compare them. So what we have in in these passages is a similar word for abolish in Greek. What Paul writes in Ephesians 2:15. I'll put at least the English on your screen. Ephesians 2:15 is by abolishing the law of commandments expressed in ordinances. And that word abolishing, that word is, well, there's different, okay, katergoe, katergeo. I'm getting tired at the end of everything. Katargeo is the Greek word there. That's like the lexical form of the word. The word Paul's using is, it's more complicated because that's Greek. Jesus, when he talks about abolishing in Matthew 5:17, I have not come to abolish the law and the prophets, but I've not come to abolish them, but have come to fulfill them. That is a similar but not same word, kataluo. So the first thing that I would want to do is I want to examine the difference between these two words. Spend a little time looking at the lexicons, looking at like BDAG or whatever, to consider these different things. But I will also say that here's where we immediately have to slow down for a second and say, these are different statements made in different contexts between Paul and Jesus at different times. And we don't want to hook too much on the term abolish, but on what they meant by the term. So it is a different word in Greek, but it's probably a sister word. But no, let me see. Oh man, I wish I had the time to just do a study on, these are different words, okay? But they're also in different contexts, and the context is something we can focus on. Jesus says, I didn't come to abolish the law and prophets, but to fulfill. So when Jesus says he's fulfilling them, but not abolishing them, he is talking to a Jewish audience, and he's making clear to them that there's a shift changing, a change coming in their relationship to the law. It will be fulfilled through Christ. And then us, with faith in Jesus, we have fulfilled the law. In Ephesians, however, Paul is talking about something very different. He's talking about the relationship between Jews and Gentiles in Christ and how the law served as a separator between Jews and Gentiles. It kept us from being connected, right? A lot of the laws were like cleanliness laws that made it so the Jews had to be separate from Gentiles. And so when he's talking about having abolished the written commandments, he's saying, I've taken them out of the way, not by destroying them, but rather by nailing them to the cross. Paul is speaking of the same thing. Let me take us to the passage. As Jesus is, he's just using a term that, draws your attention because it has that word abolish. So the peace that Jesus has made, we hear this verse all the time, but often out of context. He himself is our peace, who's made us both one and has broken down in his flesh the dividing wall of hostility. The both that are becoming one aren't just every believer with every believer, although it applies to all people. Specifically, though, it's Jews and Gentiles, right? The Jews and the Gentiles have been brought together in Christ. They've been made one. The wall, he's broken down the wall. Well, there was a wall in the temple that separated the Jews and Gentiles. Gentiles couldn't go past this wall. And there was a sign on the wall, like, you walk past this wall, we're going to kill you, right? Your death is on your own head. That's what the sign said. And that's what talks about this dividing wall. Right? Now, how did Jesus get rid of the dividing wall? How did he get rid of the separation between Jew and Gentile? Right? By abolishing the law of commandments expressed in ordinances, that he might create in himself one new man in place of the two, so making peace, and might reconcile us both to God in one body through the cross. So Paul, like Jesus, thinks Jesus is fulfilling all of the law. But he's talking about the results of this fulfillment of the law, and he uses the word abolish. But the abolishment is the tearing down. He's using a strong word here, to tear down the separation that exists between Jews and Gentiles. But he doesn't do this by violating or doing some harm to the law, but by fulfilling the law, so to speak, putting it on the cross, his perfect life and his perfect sacrifice, to say that law is satisfied. And if you have faith in Jesus, you are no longer separated by the ceremonial or the various requirements that are in the law. I hope that helps. What I'm suggesting here is a biblical principle, right? For us, as we, like a hermeneutic, a Bible study principle, that just because two authors use the same word doesn't mean they're using it the same way. So it depends on what you mean by it. And we do this in our normal English all the time. People could catch you in contradictions when you're like, yeah, but okay, yeah, I said don't X, and later I said do X, but the context and the meaning I had was different, and so there was no contradiction.